Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. This is YouTurtleHead. Today we're going to be going over Nova. I'm going to start off talking about her abilities, strategies of staying alive, then we'll get into build and strategies of playing. Now her first ability is called Null Star, which basically creates these little floating balls around you that will attack enemies. The nice thing about them is if they don't kill the enemy outright, they will guaranteed stagger the enemy. And this can be extraordinarily useful, especially with enemies that will knock you down, because usually they will attack that enemy and stagger them first. Antimatter Drop launches a contained particle of antimatter that will detonate upon collision. If you'll notice, there's a damage multiplier there. While that ball that she launches is in the air, you can shoot it, it'll absorb bullets from enemies, and it will multiply that damage into its explosion when it contacts a surface or an enemy. You can also stick it to enemies. Wormhole, kind of easy, just creates a wormhole that will teleport you from one point to another. That wormhole does stay up for a certain number of uses. Base number of uses is 4 at max rank. That means that your teammates can use it as well. And then Molecular Prime. This is the one that everyone knows Nova for. This is the one that makes the enemies go all sparkly and slows them down, makes them take more damage. And this is the one that you'll hear people talk about, Slovas and Speed Novas. This is the ability that you manipulate to create those two types of Novas, which we'll go over here in a bit. Currently I have a Slova set up. First we're just going to spawn some enemies in. Grab some energy right quick, don't want to forget that. This is Null Star. Yeah, let's just go for some lower level ones. I'm just going to let them come towards me so you can see what this does. Let's gather a few more together, shall we? Hello. Follow me. Here, come on. Alright, now let's do a little bit of drop the matter. Uh-oh. Oops. Whoops. Still do that from here now and then. Okay. So you've seen the first two abilities. This is the number 4. And that's what makes them explode and slows them down. We should have some more enemies over here. Or not. There we go. And yes, you can use the wormhole in the air. And it makes you look cool. Now let's simulate some higher level ones. Go. Alright, now I should be able to show you what the stagger is like. See how I'm gonna die there? Or I would have if I hadn't run away. There we go. Now you should ask yourself, what was the issue there? It's because I played like Nova should not. I just ran up. Nova is one where you have to run around and dodge around enemies. You have to stay mobile. As you can see, you can guide the number 2 around. Oh, come on. There we go. Basically, staying alive with Nova about 2 things. 1, really didn't even go in the hole. Staying away from the enemies, moving faster than they can aim at you, slowing them, and killing them before they kill you. You see that little glowing blue energy field around that mass drop there? That's because it absorbed a lot of damage. There's still one. The brighter that energy field is, and if you have a high damage weapon with you like a Tigress, you'll see it go completely opaque. I'm going to just go ahead and show you that. The darker that gets, the more damage it's going to do on impact. Where are you? Downsides of being a collector. So check this out. That has basically absorbed, I believe, the maximum it can. Alright, now getting into modding. As I said, this is a Slova, or Slow Nova. The way you accomplish this is you mod for as much power strength as you can, so it'll slow enemies as much as basically as much as you can. Most of her abilities are not really affected by range, which is why, you know, my range is at 67%, but I'm still able to cover the entire map with my number 4 power. That's because the number 4 power is only affected by duration for as far as how far it can go. Power range only affects the size of the explosions. Same goes for the number 2 power, the antimatter drop. Range only affects the size of the explosion, not how far it can go. Now range does affect how far the number 1 power can target. So mine does not target as far as someone that's at 100% or higher, obviously. But it does do twice as much damage, so there. Ha. Now I'm going to switch over to a Speed Nova. Now here's the difference. Power strength goes to negative, which means it's less than 100%. What that's going to do is, instead of slowing the enemies down, it's going to speed them up. This is useful in situations where you have a set number of enemies that are going to be coming to you, and you want them to go ahead and get to you. You don't want to wait for them. Power range, went ahead and increased that because why not? Bigger explosions, always better, right? As you can see, my duration is even higher, which is going to let that cover even more ground. Power efficiency went down, but you know, it's not the end of the world. So let's give this a try and see how we do. Now I also have an augment on here called Neutron Star, which is a syndicate augment for Nova. and lets you, once you cast your number 1 ability, cast it again and make your stars explode in a 6-meter radius. So if you're getting overwhelmed by Infested or something like that, that can be useful. But you know what? Let's go ahead and simulate that. Select all. Since I'm going to let them get close. Don't want to die right away. So, as far as the number 1, 2, and 3 powers go, not really a whole lot of difference, right? Now, let's reset and see where the real difference is. Don't ask me why I did that. That was a test. See if you're paying attention. Obviously. Here we go. See how they've all sped up? Notice that even though the power strength is negative on the number 4, that actually does not affect how much more damage they take based on it. If we go over to abilities, you can see that with mods. It does affect the explosion damage, but it does not affect the amount of extra damage they take. Which is why modding for negative power strength is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different strategy. Now then, just to show you that I'm not crazy, let's go for a slightly higher level, guys. Now you notice that the damage multiplier has gone down on the number 2. So even though I'm pumping just as much damage into it, it's not exploding for as much. Even though it doesn't really matter. Because when they're primed, and you're multiplying the damage of a high damage weapon like the Tigress, your enemies are gonna die. That's the end all be all of it. That is Nova Prime, and Nova, as you can see, very squishy but very, very powerful. Well, hope you've enjoyed this. This has been my first guide video on a Warframe in particular, and I will see you next time.